Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful that you can join us for another week.
We sure are.
And we're excited. We have some return guests on today. We have Dr. Elsbeth Meuth and Freddy Zental Weaver from the Tantra Nova Institute. And so they are going to talk to us today about the dance of yin and yang in relationships. And so this is going to be a really exciting talk. So welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Kim and Barb.
Good to see you both. Great to be back. Thank you so much.
Beautiful to have you back. Beautiful.
Yeah, so we'll let you take it away and get on the topic of it.
Educated.
Thank you so much. First, I want to thank you both for, having created this platform, this forum, and your engagement with me, with us over the last year. And I love to come on to your podcast because I feel like sitting in the living room with you and having a conversation.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you.
Yes,
Yeah, we
thank
enjoy
you.
having you so much as well. You
Oh,
always
Yeah.
have such good information. And we were just talking about that before we come on, because it's a different type of communication that you share. Okay. Not a lot of people can go there and do it, talk about sexuality and things like that as eloquently as you guys do. And, in a way where it's good for the people to know that this is part of life and you can
Mm.
accept it at that, and you do it so well. So thank you very much too for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for your platform and bringing people like us and other people on to inform your listeners so that we can all hopefully make it a better world and be better informed and keep expanding our consciousness.
Yes.
Yes, well, thank you. Yes, that is our mission is to, help people live a more authentic life and to continue to be seekers and learners. And, the more that we have wonderful guests like yourselves on, the more we learn and the more we can expand our minds.
Yeah,
So
in every different way.
we're excited.
Inspirational, indeed. Thank you.
So today we thought we would take the conversation to another level in terms of our polarity. Each of us, each individual, and that shows up also in relationship, is a polarity. It's just like, North and South, North Pole and South Pole, day and night. These are polarities, and they complement each other. And so when we bring this to ourselves as a human being, we want to become aware of, and most of us, it's sometimes we are happy and sometimes we are sad. That's also polarity. Sometimes we are in love and sometimes we fall out of it. So, particularly what we want to talk about is to use this polarity that in the ancient tradition, in Taoism that comes from China, is called yin and yang. And in our modern times, we could call it feminine and masculine, but not just in gender terms, because each of us have yin and yang within us. We all have estrogen and testosterone within us, maybe different proportions. That I have more estrogen than Freddy, and Freddy has more testosterone than I have, but that doesn't mean that I don't have testosterone. And I wouldn't want to miss it because testosterone is the pleasure hormone, where we can feel pleasure with and, get desire. So, this polarity, we often, when we don't feel well, or when we feel disconnected with ourselves or with another or in life, it may be that we are not in balance of that yin and yang. We brought here a little chart so that everybody can see it. That's the yin and yang. You see the black and the white of the circle. We couldn't see the black if the white wasn't there, and we couldn't see the white if the black wasn't there. So they intrinsically go together. However, what happens when I'm too lopsided in the black part of the circle? or the other way around in the white part of the circle. Then black part is actually the yin, the feminine or the moon side, and the white part is the yang, the masculine or the sun side. So you can see the moon is more passive, the sun is more active. We sleep during moon time, we are awake during sun time. And so this is a cycle that is within us, and we want to become more familiar with it, because then that allows us to see, like, when I don't feel good, be it physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, out of sorts, that I may have a source within me that I could, tap into. So there is the individual part, and then there's the relational part.
Yeah, well, in the beginning, whether we're XY or XX chromosomally, man or a woman, we're zygotes in the womb. It's undecided what we are. And then for some reason, we're more XY or more XX, and then we're born. And, as adults, men have, more testosterone, as Elsbeth said, and women have more estrogen. But as we get older, the whole thing reverses itself. Women grow hair on their faces and men grow breasts. So what we're talking about is really how can we, as adults, fully, formed, integrate this masculine feminine dynamic. And for men, it really is about broadening the emotional possibility of what we can experience. Because for men, it generally, and this happens in relationship oftentimes, we start feeling in our second chakra or our penis or our lingam. And we've had many couples come and they're in the peak of their sexual, aliveness. And she's like, I don't know if you love me. And he's like, of course I love you, honey, pointing at his erection, And like, yeah, but can you love me with your heart? And that's not something that men learn. Men are modeled two emotions, excuse my French, fucking or fighting, right?
Okay.
But yet, intimacy and vulnerability and nurturing is all part of our experience, but we don't allow ourselves that feeling. Yet when we're in our sexual selves, in those 3 seconds of orgasm, we are totally in anything's possible. We are not in any kind of fixed kind of modeled way of the way we think we should be. We're open, we're loving, we're vulnerable, more endorphin, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones. So we're in an altered state. So in the tantric practices, one of the primary edicts of all the variations that there are for the man is learning how to separate ejaculation from orgasm. Because that ejaculatory moment we're driven by, and you can understand we're in an altered state, so, and it's also works in terms of procreating the species and keeping us going. Yet we can learn to work with what we call the intelligence of this sexual energy in that altered state by learning sexual meditation. So for the man, it starts with learning to separate ejaculation from orgasm. That starts to separate out what appears to be lust or the selfish love. And we start to become more conscious in this altered state. And we can start to open up to more vulnerability and more openness in relationship to listen to, because a woman can alternate quickly from emotional to, analytical. Women are much more cognitively, flexible. We can learn, we have to evolve, and that's part of, I think, the quantum leap that we're looking at making more and more in the world, because that masculine energy is the war energy. And look at how many wars there are on the planet right now. But we're seeing more and more women who are running countries and starting to bring that feminine energy in, which is what's needed to heal the planet and the world, so men need to wake up. And I think that, the information's out there. So we're working on
it. Nice to hear you say that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Wake up, fellas, wake up.
Yes. Also, given that women have woken up over the last 50 years, from being more in a subordinate role for millennia, so women really have taken themselves on from going to college to developing themselves, that they can take on, as Freddy said, leadership roles, both in companies or as entrepreneurs or in, government. And that has really produced a phenomenal shift in energy. So for men then, because if this traditional role, again, the yin and yang, if the other part is not complementing it any longer, it's like getting lost over here. So it's really great that Freddy works with men also by himself. We not only work with couples, we also work with individual men and individual women, be it in workshops or private programs, where Freddy really supports guys to connect with their sex and their heart so they can start connecting with their wonderful testosterone energy. That is such a great energy. However, when that energy is not guided consciously, it's just all over the place, And so when a man learns to connect his sexual center with his heart center, he becomes actually not only more integrated, but also more mature.
Yeah, a lovingness happens for men in terms of an open-heartedness, because energy is one. Science will tell you, it starts out as a nuclear energy and it's basically can be used to power a car, a generator, or electricity. And we're that same energy. Energy is a unified field, quantum energy. And so when men learn to separate ejaculation from orgasm, they learn how to consciously, with breath, attention on energy, move that energetic feeling to their heart, like heartgasms. And that process really starts to give a man an opportunity to be in a different place with his relationships, his experience, his emotions.
So how does that play out in relationship with a woman? And given that I'm the woman here in relationship with my we can demonstrate it here. So most men, when they want to connect with their partner, what we are saying also applies to same-sex couples or to bisexual couples or partners or to transgender partners. Because if there is not that polarity, there's no magnetism. The earth only stays together in place, so to speak, in the cosmos because there is the North and South Pole. And that's a magnet that holds them. It's like magnetic. Otherwise we would just fall all over the universe.
Right.
And it's the same. We can use that example as, an analogy for relationship. If that magnetism is not there, there's no attraction. We may get along in business or taking care of a house or even children, but we want to have that magnetism. So how can we cultivate that further so that both can flow with it? So in that context, most men, when they want to connect with their partner or the person that is more in their masculine in a same-sex couple, they start feeling it in their sexual center. Most women, or the one that are more in their feminine, they start feeling it when they want to connect with the other in their heart center. We have the same intention, we want to connect, but we come from different loci. He's coming from
down there.
below there, yes, and I'm coming from here. So it's like two ships passing in the night. And in the tantric practice, through what Freddy shared with us around, for the men to learn to not spill his semen, but to hold the semen down through the muscle action in the pelvic floor. There are very particular practices that we teach men so that you as a man can hold that down while you breathe up the sensation of the orgasmic feeling.
Yeah.
Let me,
Yeah.
So the orgasm is a sensation. Ejaculation is a muscular reflex in the body. And a man can learn to distinguish that. And the beauty of that is that he's not just going to get aroused quickly and then loses it quickly like this, and there he is gone. He can actually learn to ride the wave. So for that, he wants to channel his wonderful testosterone energy up into his heart. When his heart opens, my heart opens.
Trust.
My heart feels it,
Mhm.
My heart opens, my sexual center opens. And then we have a circuit. It's
Polarity.
all circular. Then we are in flow together. And so if in that graph of, when he's like this, while she, given our estrogen energy, we call it the slow hormone, goes like, it takes time. Feminine energy needs to be reawakened. Unlike masculine energy, doesn't need any reawakening. It needs sustainability, like this is what a man wants to cultivate. For the woman, we want to have space and room, that there is no rushing, no pressure, because that really creates the opposite. Oh, let's get it over with, or not feeling safe or trusting. So
Mhm.
this doesn't produce trust when he comes and goes like this. This produces trust.
Mhm.
And what happens then is when her energy reawakens, then we can meet on the plateau and dance the wave together. So, and that doesn't only apply in the bedroom, it applies, in the everyday life. How connected are we? How are we connected in the heart? You wanted to.
No, I wanted to just sort of say that, what we're opening up for people is that there is more to sex than creating babies or just, the lusting of having fun with it. I mean, and all that's great. That there is an intelligence that we can glean in sexual meditation to shift how we are experiencing and living in our lives.
Mhm.
That's what we're really opening up, because once people come to this, it sounds new and this sounds interesting, perhaps to many, yet it's really not. It's really what it is it's remembering what we've forgotten, because we've all come through life in this way. And you think of sexual energy before we had all these goods and bads and shoulds and shouldn'ts, was creating life before we had language. And, the kernel of it is creativity. It creates life and pleasure. And so if we can glean that as a way to listen, energetically, frequency wise in our life, creativity and pleasure are a good thing. Just in terms of an authentic life, as you mentioned earlier, living an authentic life, we are all so different and unique. And yet we all try to fit into a box. And if we're too different, then we're scared that we'll be, shunned, and
Yeah.
yet all the differences that there are in the world are what have made it better for everyone. Someone said, oh, that electricity. And somebody was going, electricity? What are you talking about? We got candles, or car. What car? We got horses, I mean, so ideas and people's uniqueness is what we really want to keep living into. And that's one of the things that makes America so great, is that we're just such a hodgepodge mix of all these cultures and ethnicities. And, if you want all black, go to Africa. You want all white, go to Europe. If you want all Asian, go to, to China, Japan. If you want all Mexican, go to Mexico. But if you want what all of those brilliant cultures can bring together, you come to America. The unique,
Right.
and our Canada. you know,
It's okay.
yeah.
That's right. That's right.
That's
Our
very true.
sister in the north. And is there anything you want to just say right now? We can go on, but if there's
Yeah, I
anything.
do. Of
What
course.
are you guys getting? Yeah, please.
Okay, now when you talk about the gamut coming down on a man sort of thing, where he's coming where he wants to be. Now for a woman, I often find that I have something to say, because something I want to happen during the sexual act, that helps me to get where I need to go. Now,
Mhm.
so is that like a yin and a yang? Because now you're trying to pull that from him to see your feminine side of how you feel. You're trying to say to yourself, I feel this way about this situation and how we're coming into the act of what we're doing right now. Is that a good thing to do? It's because am I educating him that maybe think about this for a minute because this is where I'm sitting right now
You
sexually?
see, that's exactly what we're talking about in terms of this polarity. So for the woman to do that as you do, that
Okay.
requires sort of like a masculine energy. It
Okay.
doesn't take away from your femininity. And for him to listen and take it in and respond requires a feminine energy, a listening energy. So
Okay.
that's that polarity. That's that dance that's happening all the time in the yin and the yang. And that's a beautiful application of how these practices and how this kind of work can be a really difference for men and women in their relationships. So that's beautiful what you do. And I'm sure you got a guy who's got his, grounded in his masculine, but also can play in his feminine and listen and
Learning.
respond. Yeah,
Learning.
beautiful. That's a great example. That's a
Yeah,
great
so
example.
let's build further on that because
Okay.
there are actually verbs that express that dynamic of yin and yang. So just like speaking or speaking up and listening. Speaking up is yang, listening is yin. You
Okay.
know, if
Mhm.
we want to be in harmony in relationship, it's essential that each of us has the capacity to speak up, dares to speak up, doesn't feel I cannot, or, I couldn't do it when I grew up. It's still in my nervous
Yeah.
system,
Yeah. Mm.
And so we want to also use relationship to practice that and to invite each other into the places perhaps that may be less familiar or more uncomfortable.
Right.
Because like
Go
as you
ahead.
shared in that intimate embrace, it's like you are in your feminine by being open. You're receiving while you ask. So it's actually at the same time, you are in yin and yang within yourself. And then there is yin and yang, where when you speak up, you are in the yang energy in the relationship. And he hopefully is in his yin energy and listens.
So would that bring the playfulness out in the relationship at that point too, while you're engaged in a sexual moment? If you're in a playful mood with it as well, sort of thing, would that also bring a different part into how you're making love to, like to be able to express yourself in that playful way? Because I'm a playful person, and I express myself oftentimes in playful ways, and sometimes I feel like maybe it's deteriorating how he feels sexually by doing that, which isn't my intent, right? Because
I think you're on the right path because you're listening to what's right for you and your partner. Even how close we become in relationship, we still have to recognize that you are you and I'm me, and each of us come from our own clay. We look into the world from clay, meaning the stuff that we've experienced in our life and our beliefs and blah 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 blah. So to have room for that with each other gives us pause to be able to listen without opinion or without judgment or without any agenda. It's like, so for you to keep saying what you feel energetically, emotionally, what's your authentic truth is important. And for the other to do that. Yet for many of us, we don't feel that that's possible. We've become resigned to the possibility that we can actually speak what we feel or even connect with what we feel because it's so powerful and so bright. We've never really dealt with maybe the abuse at home or something that happened in our life. So this introspective looking and listening and being with our emotional self is part of what the work is that we teach in terms of the meditations and how we can learn to be what we call the witness of ourselves. We'll get
okay,
into that.
The older I get and the more I learn what has come to me, which is most important to feel fulfilled and lead a fulfilled life, is a sense of freedom.
Mhm.
Without freedom, there is no flow.
Mm.
And flow means freedom, and freedom means flow. So back to what you spoke about, Barb, with respect to being in partner play, is you definitely want to make sure that you are with a partner who invites or welcomes play.
Right.
And perhaps if he's not there fully yet, that he's open to learning. If he wasn't open to learning at all, why would you be with him?
True.
No?
But the wonderful thing about relationship is to see something about ourselves that we otherwise wouldn't see on our own. So if you're with a guy who gets triggered when you make requests, and yet he's also able to share with you his trigger, owning his trigger, not because of you or putting you down, and then you can listen and then he can grow. And you can keep going, okay, well, let me step into sharing my heart and what I feel. And let me step out of, judging you or feeling any kind of a way when you feel what you feel, so we can keep growing and expanding. And that requires these practices and this kind of groundedness as what we call the witness of ourselves. And I don't want to get too ethereal about that, but it's a very practical thing.
Because I find that with a lot of men, when you try to play with them that way, their control part comes in where they think you're trying to control the action where you're not really. You're only trying to be the person and exude the energy that you're feeling at the time. You want that to relay you want them to feel what you're feeling. You want them to, if you could only feel how I feel at the moment by my playfulness and how it does this for me, right? So I'm instead of me trying to say, or instead of the guy saying, well, you're trying to control the situation, because a lot of men will feel that, I find, where you're not trying to control anything. You're just being this free bird doing your own thing, right?
Control goes back and forth. So that's where the polarity we're talking about. So
here's just a little advice, if I may. What you may want to do is before you even have intimate play or are together in the bedroom, you may just want to have a conversation with him and just share with him what you really like and what turns you on or what gives you pleasure and how to play with him and invite him and ask him, would you be open to exploring? Because that takes out the itch later on.
The not knowing and wondering.
Particularly play is very improvisational.
Right.
And many men are very linear.
Yes. That's where I was going with that. Yeah.
No?
That's expansion I'm talking about that we as men.
So that is this even expressed in the sexual energy. It's linear male testosterone energy.
Right.
Unlike feminine energy is circular flowing, the yin energy. And they go beautiful together. It's not that he becomes like her now or she becomes like him.
Right.
No, it's actually then we play, Barb, on that axis here. And it's great if he loves it.
Absolutely. Because that's what I'm trying to say where the yin and yang comes in. Because now you're passing it back and forth at that time of sexuality. You're playing your yin and yang together, correct?
Yes.
Right.
You got it.
Right. And what I have found is really to have before we get into anything, it may be even cooking or but not only the bedroom, is to just sharing, this is important to me, this is what I like, this is what I would like to explore with you. Are you open? Because then he has a say. He can say, oh, wow, that sounds interesting. I've never done this before. Let's do it. Or he could say,
let me take a workout and go meditate and I can come back and ground myself and get ready for you, or whatever he needs to do or not do, then he has a choice. But that's great. That's a great suggestion.
Yes, because the linearity of thinking that also is in a man's brain.
And modeled. And
as Freddy earlier said, men are not as
malleable.
Yeah, and interactive in the brain. I mean, the brain is set up differently. Yes. It's much more, I'm either rational or I express my feelings.
Some men are, and men are starting to expand. And this is what we're doing, and particularly in the men's workshops that I teach, are all part of that. So men are expanding. There is hope for us.
No, it's not like this is not men bashing. There's no right or wrong here. Yeah. Because between yin and yang, there is no right or wrong or good or bad. All there is is either being in balance or we are out of balance.
Right.
And when we remember that, it's like that the other is not wrong. The other is not like, oh, he doesn't give me what I want. What about more asking then, how could we create this together? Or how can I be in the situation here to be an invitation to check with him? Or even in lovemaking, we can say, how is this? Very, seductively.
It is.
So, and that he really, it goes the other way too, because if the man just was so passionate and just being all over you, and you are in a different space, you may not be there yet,
Mhm.
or something came across that took you off a little bit, or reminded you of something that happened 15 years ago, and there you went, and he may not notice it.
Right.
And you may start feeling, oh, wait a minute, he's just doing his thing now. I just have disappeared. So then how can I bring myself back and say, darling, can we just take a little pause? I love how you are all over me. I just need a little pause.
Stillness reset is a nice reset. So like you're in lovemaking and it feels like it's just heading towards, let's just get to the orgasm, the ejaculation, the orgasm. And so you might feel like, oh, this is kind of rushed and it feels so, typical. So you can just ask, can we just be in stillness for a moment? And breathe together. And there's certain types of breathing that you can do, asynchronous and alternate breathing, that really start to deepen the connection and slow us down and bring us into the right here, right now, because our mind gets going and our old systems get automatic and, we're off to the races. So to just come back to the right now can really enliven and really, really extend the sexual experience in a new way. So that stillness is something to learn and to practice. And it's not learning something new, it's remembering what we've forgotten.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
very true. Yeah, and I like what you're saying, because it's really, to me, it's like about listening to your own body and sharing that with your partner, or like you said, it can go into all areas of your life. And that seems to be how you balance out that yin and yang, is by that listening and then receiving the information as well.
Yeah, and it does require, as a practice, for people to stop and be connected to what they're feeling. Because we get triggered by something, and because we're so externally referenced, it's because of the weather, or because of what you said or what you did, as opposed to me owning my upset, tuning into where I'm feeling, what I'm feeling, and then settling that. And then if there's a request to be made or a question to be asked, then you can do that without the charge, without the make wrong, without the you do and whenever you do thing. And so this is kind of the practical application of these meditative practices that we teach, in terms of particularly working with sexual meditation, which is very unique because it's an altered state that we're in anyway, whether we're doing consciousness work or not in the sexual. So then when we add learning the breath and intention and the meditative aspects of energy awareness and so on, we start to work with that altered state to get more deeply connected to ourselves and what's going on beyond the conscious story making that we live in. So I might be going deeper than we want to in this show, but
That's good.
I
That's
think
good.
that's great, because we do tell ourselves a lot of stories we make up.
oh boy.
So I think that's great that you said that, because it just shows, right? As being in that moment, and it's not that you can't feel these things, but it's, identifying with them and then dealing with them before you're interacting with the people that you're intimate with.
Yeah.
It's like being a curious witness of ourselves without judgment, just like, oh, isn't that curious? Not making it wrong or anything, just, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we brought a little example of that flow of energy, both within us and then also with each other. So there's life force energy running through each of us, emanating from the base of the spine and moving up on the inhalation like a serpentine to the top of the head, and then back down again, just like that on the exhalation. So we brought this energy ball, which is like when there are two metal pieces, and it's just like works just like an outlet. You know, when we put a plug into an outlet, there's a minus and a plus. It's the same principle. So when I connect with each of these little metal pieces,
Oh,
wait a minute, let me just yeah, so that you can hear the
You can change it.
sound. Okay, so it lights up and it sounds. Can you hear the sound?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means now I'm connected. You know, my plus minus, my feminine masculine, my yin yang is now in circuitry. If there's a disconnect, if something is off, that cycle doesn't work as well. I mean, I'm not saying it ever breaks totally down unless we die, then, you know, that disintegrates then. But until then, there's always a kind of cycle in our body, otherwise an energy cycle, otherwise we wouldn't be alive. Yeah, but it can be constrained and restricted, and that produces the discomfort, physical discomfort, emotional discomfort. For example, when I feel constricted and heavy in my heart because I may have been grieving or sad for a while. You know, all these things. So it could be in my sexual center, it could be in my third eye center. I'm not connected with my intuitive self, you know. So I'm wandering around and don't know either what to do or where to go, don't have a direction. So there is this inner circuit within each human being, and there is a circuit between two partners. So let's do it. Can you see it?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's an illustration of this unified field. You know, you've gone into a room, good vibes, bad vibes. No one said anything, but it's a feeling. So it's really starting to really trust our intuitive selves energetically and how we can listen and be present.
So there is this circuit between two people. Actually, there's a circuit between the four of us. If we were in the same room, the four of us, we would do that together, and it would be the same response by the ball when we are all connected. When one takes the hand off from the connection,
They break the circuit.
so we are all connected. It's a beautiful demonstration. So in terms of relationship, is then that we keep that circuit alive consciously. So, because like if I get angry, that's a constricting energy. I'm not open, you know, to groove with Freddy. If he were to approach me intimately, then that's the last thing that I want at that moment, you know? So then I need to recalibrate here so that I get connected intimately with myself. And intimacy and anger, just like orgasm and anger, cannot happen at the same time. It's not possible. You know, this is why we may love orgasm so much, because for a few moments, everything disappears. It's a glorious moment, but then right afterwards, no.
I don't know. It wasn't as good as the last time. You want a cigarette? I don't know. I got to do something. You know, all the stuff we do, right? Or can do.
So anyway, and how we often like to portray it, that it's like a figure eight, you know, and back to your comment, Barb, like keeping the connection by being open in terms of what I want, yet also invite him, like that he can feel the openness. You know, relationship is very different than intimate relationship is very different than a boss to an employee.
Oh, yeah.
Because in intimate relationship, there is order or demand. It's not really in place. It's not really advisable. It's for a healthy, harmonious relationship. I'm not saying that we never get angry. That happens, but to resolve it is to come back to the figure 8, where I have recalibrated over here so that I can be connected with him, with me, before I connect with him. And then when I'm connected again, I can start listening. I can say, perhaps there was a little difference, a little fight, or, emotional. Come back to yourself, Elsbeth. And when I'm back in my own heart, then I can invite Freddy to share with me what his concern is.
Yeah.
Or ask him, darling, would you be open now to hear me out? But in a very different tone than I may have said earlier, like, I never get this, and you never do this, and I'm just so disappointed, like generalities that don't resolve anything.
But make me defensive, or not make me, but I react in a defensive way.
Yeah.
And so my work in that situation is to not react in a defensive way, just kind of like manage my own, energy around feeling like, what is she saying to me? Is this ridiculous? I should, cuss you out too, instead of all of that, just keep breathing and then go, okay, I love you, darling. I'll talk. We can talk later, perhaps, about this. I'm going to just go for a walk.
Yeah.
That's like really a high level of self-awareness that we all can aspire to, because it does take some tending to do that and regular practice. So that's the opportunity in relationship, though. And so we all got to keep doing our own work, and hopefully when the day is, it'll be okay when it's all over, and it's not over until it's over. You know what I mean? So
can we just show a practice how a couple can come back to harmony?
Yes, please.
And, and through energetic connection, because sometimes talking doesn't produce the result. I'm not saying not to talk, but sometimes it's not the right thing for the moment. So there's a beautiful heart-to-heart connection, which goes like this. We place our left hand on each other's heart, and then we look into each other's left eye, because the left eye is correlated to the right brain hemisphere, which is the feeling part of the brain, the Vesuvius, artistic,
improvisational, receptive,
experiential. So we tune right with our partner in towards that part of the brain, which then has us be more easily connected. Do you want to lead that?
Yeah, so we gaze into each other's left eye. We breathe in together, breathe out together. On the next inhalation, visualize receiving energy from the other's hand on your heart into your heart. On the exhalation, with your attention on this location and intention to move it with the breath, send it to the other's heart. Sending on the exhalation, receiving on the inhalation. Sending on the exhalation, receiving on the inhalation. And we keep in that rhythm.
And then the next time, with the exhale into the other's heart, we send our love energy. And on the inhale, I receive Freddy's love energy through his arm, his hand, into my heart. And then I send my love energy from my heart into Freddy's heart. So then we are just a circle of love, and we both focus on it. It takes two to tango. Both want to be willing. How do you feel?
I feel great. Now, if we had just gotten through with she was just arguing with me about something, I have to come off of that, right? So I might do that in resistance, but we both have a commitment to do this. So we do it. And then we remember what we've forgotten. That stillness, that connectedness, beyond my ego, beyond my interpretation, beyond my agenda, beyond my story. We're just breathing and being. That's how simple it is. Babies do it all the time. 1 minute they're crying, next minute they're happy. Yeah, animals, dog. That's why we love dogs because they're like our spiritual guides. You leave them in the house all day, no water. That you come home, they're like, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you. How have you been?" A human would be like, "What the hell, man? There was no water. It's hot in here." So we remember how simple this peace can be. Joy is just right there. It's right there.
Now, this is a cultivated practice. And I want to do this practice with myself where I connect with my heart center and breathe in and out of the heart so that I'm heart centered. The heart is the reconciler between our upper energy centers, our lower energy centers. It's the connector between our heavenly being and our earthly being. The connector between our consciousness self and our sexual self. And being centered in the heart, which has a very particular frequency that actually is like a magnet of love when we bring our awareness to it. So we want to cultivate this within ourselves, and then we cultivate it in relationship. And Freddy pointed out something a moment earlier, that this only works if we have an agreement beforehand. Just as we suggested, have a conversation with your guy before you even start your lovemaking.
Right.
Like setting the conditions or like the standards or like new ideas. So in this case, we have made the agreement to shift out of upset into harmony. And if one of us comes to us while there may be some tension and opens up that space towards harmony, the other will go with it, even when I may not feel it. But it's not because I like it then suddenly so much. No, because I said so, I agree to it. An agreement in relationship is such a bond, and that we keep our agreement until we openly declare, I want to change our agreement. I mean, in any area of the relationship, then we can renegotiate. But without renegotiation, we stay with it because that builds trust. And trust is the glue of relationship. Mm-hmm. And so you can see it's so multifaceted. Yet, when we have these practices and these agreements, they are mutual, then we can, come back more easily into flow, like into the balance. And when we are in balance, we are in the flow. This is what this is all about. Mm-hmm. And when we are in balance, we feel happy, we feel fulfilled, we feel loved, we feel love, and that has then an impact on our physical body, our physical health. It has an impact on our mental health, so it's very all-encompassing. And
and so sexual meditation, I keep coming back to that.
He cannot leave that out.
Because, it's so misunderstood in terms of like, it's good, it's bad, it's pornographic, or it's lewd, or it's something we should only do whatever. We've got all kinds of stories and opinions about it. Yet again, it was creating life before we had language. There is an intelligence, creativity, and pleasure. And when we talk about all these dynamics in relationship, what we're coming back to, pleasure, connectedness, right? So when I get really pissed off and she's pissed off and we go away and we come back to our senior commitment of connection, and then we do maybe that practice, it leads us to where? Where the sexual piece leads us. It's the same thing. So when you can learn the sexual meditation with yourself before even working with another person, we are reminded of this place that is within all of our right to be in, that's available to us, beyond the lust, beyond falling in love, beyond all the other things, the wonderful things that happen in this energy. So we can use this energy as a way to remember something that's a part of our experience as humans.
I know with me, if I get upset or something, if I put my hand on my heart and think about it for a minute, I just go, I take a deep breath in order to allow myself to come back down to know me. Now, if you were practicing what you're talking about there with your partner enough, now would it just sometimes just become automatic? Like if you're having an argument, you could walk up to that person, put your hand on their heart and go, and within time of doing that, I'm asking you is, would you get so that you would just transfer that feeling and relax with each other just because you know that that's what you're doing it for? Would that become sort of a nice time for the two of you if you did that and learned how to do it together? Would that become automatically calm you down when you're both in a moment of anxiety or whatever the case may be? Because I know it works for me by myself. So would it work with your partner if you were doing that?
If you have agreed to it,
Okay.
because otherwise it may feel like an intrusion to
Okay.
the
Okay.
other. Like, just imagine I am sitting at the computer, I'm doing some work. I'm not on a Zoom call or so, yeah? And Freddy comes over and puts his hand on my heart or between my shoulder blades, at the back of my heart. And I don't have that agreement with him. I may feel like, what is he doing now? I'm in the middle of something. There's disturbance.
Right.
With the agreement, I know, oh, that's already a familiar way of connecting that I have agreed to. And so then it's very different. And that is essential, Barb, that your partner knows about it and is fundamentally in agreement with you. Otherwise, it's not, then it becomes after a while, it's just a little touch can shift the energy.
Right.
If he hasn't agreed to it and he may be caught at a moment when he was so engrossed in something else or just busy with himself or disgruntled in himself, then there is not the openness because the transmission happens through that it's like, can be infused. But for the infusion, if there is too much density over there, just like the floor is dense, if there is like a rock, but if there is like, even if he was in his thoughts and in a different place, given that he had said before, oh yeah, let's do this together and uplift each other, then the hand becomes a reminder of his own agreement.
Right.
And then he may say, oh darling, can we do this just in 5 minutes? Because it may not be the right moment for him. We also want to be attuned to that.
Right. Right.
And what else you could do, what I do at times, I'm not even touching Freddy. I'm not even physically, and I see him perhaps having a rough day or just being not at peace with himself, that I just open my heart. I don't do anything. I just bring my awareness to my heart and connect my heart with his heart energetically.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
For the sake of his well-being. I don't talk about it. I don't do anything. It's just energetically, like we can envelop another's heart without, so
Yeah.
should just see what, and I know you can definitely do that part. You do so much energetic,
I want to add,
intuitive work,
let me add too, is refining this practice. And as I've continued to experience these things don't stop happening. Anger, upset, disappointment, sadness, they just don't stick around as long.
Right.
We're human, we're animals, and we do have these automatic responses to things, sadness, anger, and so on. It's when we spin the story, then we become the Hatfields and McCoys. 2 weeks later, we're still thinking and getting angry about that thing that somebody said or the way they looked at us or whatever she said or he said, And so the more we can practice, have some kind of practice where we can have familiar and accessibility to this witness, this stillness, that it's okay, we can more easily and quickly tap into that. Even in the midst of all these things that we are as humans, we can remember more readily because it's right there because we've been practicing. It's like if you've been practicing running, you can run a mile. If you've been watching what you're eating, your body feels good. If you're playing your piano, if you're doing the thing, you play that. So it's the same thing. So having access to that quick witness of our story making that we do, not that we don't get reactionary, we can more easily come back to this place through also some of these somatic practices that we've been sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
kind of sort of where I was going with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That because of habit and doing it often, you would know where the other person was at if you reached out and did that, like, whoa, let me calm you down. And that's kind of sort of what I was thinking. Because we all have to have some kind of a center where we're with our partners, or we should try, where we know how to calm them, right? And I'm just saying
Well,
that's a really nice way of doing it. That way, if you were doing it all the time, be nice way the other person going, woo.
just not to get caught in having to change something, because if someone's experiencing a real upset, sometimes it's just like Elsbeth was doing, where she's just an open space without an agenda, without having to change it or have them let it go. Sometimes they just need to be angry for a moment or
Right.
sad, or what I mean. So you just hold space for that with an open heart, without, oh, you got to be better. I'm going to make you better. I'm going to do something to make you feel better. It's like, no, let me just hold space and allow you space to feel what you're feeling, this human thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Wow.
this hour has flown by, and you guys gave us so much to think about, and I'm sure the followers as well, so much. And, a good reminder to, find that stillness within ourselves and share that with our partners and the people that we care about in our lives. So if you had a final thought to leave with everybody, what would it be?
Before I go there, may I also share just where they can find us, the audience?
Yes. We want to do that as well. Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, we have been so engaged with each other that it was a conversational flow
Yeah, it was really
of
good.
yin and yang, listening, speaking, giving and receiving. So yeah, everyone who is listening today, you can find us at tantranova.com, TANTRANOVA, Tantranova, like supernova, tantranova.com. And on the homepage, when you scroll down, you can also find our book. The title is Sexual Enlightenment: How to Create Lasting Fulfillment in Life, Love, and Intimacy. It's available both in hard copy and in audiobook. Then on our website, you can find all kinds of workshops we are offering, or also work privately. As we mentioned earlier, there are opportunities for just men, a men's workshop that is called Men, Sex, and Power. And then for women, the workshop I'm leading is called Awaken to Your Feminine Essence. And then we have our Secrets to Lasting Intimacy workshop for couples and singles, for both men and women. And there are different levels. A foundational level that is very much about how to cultivate lasting emotional intimacy. And then the advanced level, how to cultivate lasting sexual intimacy. So all of that is available, and other products. And
we want to see both of you in those classes, by the way. You're coming to Chicago. You're staying with us.
Sounds good to me.
Perfect.
Yeah, sounds real good. It's such a pleasure with you two.
Yeah. And what last thought?
Yeah. Just again, thank you both for your platform and sharing this and making the world a little better by people hearing different ideas and possibilities. And you both are beautiful. Let's all keep making it a better world. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right back to you guys.
And for me, it's like just to remember to listen to the heart. The heart is such a beautiful guide and is never wrong. The heart already knows what's right for me. So no matter if we are solo in life or if we are as a partner, with a partner in life, the heart is really the guide. And so just to bring your awareness to your heart when you don't know what to do, when you are concerned, worried, or sad, listen to your heart, and your heart will answer. Sometimes it may take a day or two, so be patient.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you. We just love spending time with you guys, and we really appreciate all the information you shared
bet.
with us and everyone else. So
You bet.
I'll hopefully see you again, and thank you so much for sharing the time with us.
Thank you so much.
And everybody else, tune in the next time.
You bet you will.